This short clip is from my live trading room. You can engage directly with my fabulous team and me at LaDucTrading.com for all our research and trades. Or for just my daily live streams, you can access via YouTube memberships. All links are in the description. I did do a write-up on yesterday's Treasury announcement. I will post that after I close my trading room. I did a whole bunch of research yesterday afternoon and this morning, trying to finalize it, get it out to you. So you'll have that. But I can kind of go over the main points. I just wanted to highlight the fact that market is not necessarily believing Bessent. The Bessent Put I talked about live yesterday because we kind of caught that announcement live and its impact on dumping the dollar, which spiked gold, it spiked Bitcoin, the crypto. At the same time, the president was having a summit specifically trying to get votes on the Clarity Act. Anyway, we had a big Bitcoin spike, and I'll show you all that stuff too. I love, however, how Jeffrey really summed up this event yesterday as classic fiscal dominance 101 and gave the imagery of basically it's a nicotine patch for cancer. Yes. So we have basically a very, very minuscule Treasury buyback that was announced yesterday. I go into the plumbing and that detail, but it did have a short-term effect, right, of spiking equities. We had a little bounce here, which is now since weekend. We had a strong bounce in SPY, in gold, but I had warned we did not have a trounce in yields or oil. And in fact, if you look this morning, oil is above my 85 line in the sand, which is uber bullish. Yields are not laying down for this Bessent Put, and markets obviously are soggy this morning. So we'd already been warned, I hope anyway, you'd already been warned that I see this momentum fading, and that's really important. Momentum is fading. We did get some selling Monday, Tuesday, but obviously with yesterday's quote unquote Bessent Put, we did have a spike higher in buying. We had a very strong spike higher in Bitcoin. You can see where it did this kind of thing. In fact, I looked it up this morning because I was curious. This move, if you can see with Bitcoin, did a sharp spike and a little bit of follow through this morning. It is trying, obviously, to stay above the 200-day, but you know how I feel about that. When they get below the 200-day, that stock, I don't care, asset class, just don't care. It is a lot of work to get back above it and stick the landing. It usually takes months, if it's true. If it's a true move, it'll take months to go sideways to higher. You can see Ethereum did the same thing. It had already had a monthly trend line all the way from July 2022, another tag in April of 2025 on the lows, and then most recently this summer, it has been digesting and had a very eventful move higher in Ethereum as well. But this has got to follow through. This is a descending 200-day. It can take just a long time in sideways. But what this spike in Bitcoin did, ironically, at the exact same time that Treasury announcement of buybacks hit headlines, we had interesting timing because at the exact same time, we had a Trump summit where Donald Trump, President Trump, was meeting with major crypto executives at the White House, trying to get pressure on Congress to pass this stalled Clarity Act. The same time, the SEC announced a policy framework that basically offered exemptions and disclosure rules tailored for crypto assets. And that is basically creating this push for a digital and kind of a network of operation. The result of the Treasury announcement on the same day as the Trump summit and the SEC policy shift caused Bitcoin to surge past 71,000 after it had been digesting in the 60,000 area for all of June and July. So what the effect was, it broke out of this range clearly into the 200-day above it and caused a massive short squeeze, which liquidated $3 billion in bearish bets. So it was convenient. Yes, it really, really was convenient. I think most people were probably focused on the fact that it was a buyback announcement through November 4th, one day after midterm election. but I just found the coincidence that it timed with Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto extravaganza. And of course, the fact that it also timed, the Treasury announcement timed right before a 20-year auction later in the day. And by the way, that 20-year auction, Treasury auction, did fail. So it had a tail of 5 basis points with a bid to cover ratio falling below both the prior auction and a 6 auction average. So clearly, Bessent was worried about big picture, a buyer strike. And so it did not solve the liquidity problems. Those are still existent because of federal debt issuance, inflation, AI debt that's competing with Treasury debt, all the things we've talked about. Gulf states investing inward and not so much in AI boom. So anyway, we definitely have a lot that we can talk about after I get my write-up to you. But bottom line, we do not likely have relief in long duration rates. As you can see, even if we get a little bit of mortgage compression, that's one thing we talked about yesterday. There were 2 things we talked about yesterday, which was one, XLF, which is financials. They like it cheap and steep, and that yield curve is flattening. In fact, that yield curve flattened right exactly in my sweet spot as well. So that was kind of impressive. If you recall, this 10 and 2-year yield curve was a bear steepening away, and it came into this upper level. I had inverse head and shoulders on FOMC. Then we had a big surge on the next FOMC, July 30th, which was also yen intervention, remember. And then this just kept climbing higher into my 48, which was the price target I had given back down here, 48 basis points. And then I had to update it with an overshoot to basically 53 to 55, and we hit it before the Bessent Treasury buyback intervention. So that flattening is one of the reasons why you experienced XLF weakening yesterday, along with KRE, big dump in KRE, as well as KIE. They don't like the flattener. They like it cheap and steep. So that's what you got right now. Again, this is the Bessent put that really isn't. And bonds bounce, but they're coming back down. US dollar obviously got dumped with the dollar yen, but it's starting to stabilize. It was all very suspicious timing. Lots of folks are expecting more cowbell. I will show you how it is minuscule. And swapping cheap debt for expensive debt is, as Jeffrey puts it, a nicotine patch for lung cancer.
Join Club to trade with Samantha. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description.